That's why it's essential that the pressure distribution be, the pressure be distributed, as opposed to localizing it and intending to controlling it like we do with water. You have to keep the pressure below a threshold, rather than relying on fracturing technique. And this is my opinion. If I had some of my colleagues in the room, they'd jump on me right away. So they'd say, hey, we can do this, we can do this. But, over in our lab on campus, we study the properties of CO2, and we know that it's, even though under controlled conditions, it's easy to predict those properties, but I contend that in the deep subsurface, it's not so easy to control to predict those properties. So it is more difficult to control the seismicity associated with supercritical CO2, I think, based on what we know. But if you're to distribute the injection wells to keep the pressure below a threshold, then it's very possible, I think. All right, and you also go deeper. Now, at higher levels, it's a gas, and it's very compressible, and then it's not an issue. Because gas is very much, it's like air. Very compressible. You can get a lot in. It still holds a lot of energy, but not nearly as much as a liquid does. So that's. I hope that answers the question, whomever asked it.
Well, thank you, and I'll skip over this next question and get to you now. And I want to say, we have bagels over in the Union Den for you to have a snack, and at 3 o'clock will be a panel in Osh about Palestine, which is kind of a sore spot. We in the United States are so underinformed about what's happening in Palestine. Please attend that too. But here's the next question.
Am I doing a good thing when I purchase a monthly block of Blue Sky Energy or not?
Good question.
I'll turn to you guys.
Well, one of the things I found out, you get all those inserts in your electric bill which says Blue Skies is so great and thank you for using Blue Sky. Those inserts are paid by the money which you're putting in Blue Sky. The Blue Sky money, every dollar Blue Sky money, they have I think 5 cents of that goes into an administrative cost and 10 cents goes into advertising. And that advertising is basically whitewashing Rocky Mountain Power. So after I found that out, I quit my Blue Sky program and I'm putting my money, there are some programs here at the university which promote renewable energy in a more direct way. And that's so I'm out of it. That's mine.
But isn't the other 85 cents, where is that money going? Is that more central money? So are they actually purchasing wind power with it? What's going on with it?
Yeah, they're purchasing, what are they called, renewable energy credits?
My understanding is it's supposed to be wind power coming out of the Wyoming.
Yeah, it can be anywhere. So it's most of it is not local renewable energy. They're purchasing renewable energy credits on the market for that money. I think they are not really purchasing energy itself, but the RECs which renewable energy providers get for their renewable energy, and they are split off from the electricity cost itself, and that's what Rocky Mountain Power purchases for that blue child.
Hans, I have a little information on that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I was talking to a guy high up in Pacific Corp. He was telling me about their future new generator plans, what they intend to put in. Half of all of their capacity that they intend to add is wind power, and roughly half is gas.
Yeah, that's another part. Pacifico, it seems Pacifico as a corporation is much greener than Rocky Mountain Power as it's
Same company.
Yeah, as I understand, Rocky Mountain is the transmission side, Suncorp is the generation side.
Yeah.
I would also question the Utilities Commission, because ultimately it's up to the Utilities Commission and folks that work for them to evaluate every dollar that the companies spend. And so that would be, that's whom I would direct the question towards, is the Utilities Commission. Now that you've asked it, I think I'm going to ask it. That's a great point.
That's,
Because I know I pump how many dollars per month into it, and I just blindly do it.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I put this question on the list of questions as a really good question, but I don't really have an answer. But now, this gentleman here wanted to understand. Or did you already ask? No, you.
I'd like to ask a question about CO2 plants. It's a traffic store that has been built in Florida. My understanding is it's just sitting there because no one will insure it.
It's a CO2, pardon me, forgive me?
CO2 cap and store plant that's sitting in Florida.
I'm not familiar with it, but it wouldn't surprise me because right now the EPA is still in its, they're still creating what's called the Class 6 injection well permit framework. So we don't have a path forward. We do for research projects. So we're going under existing frameworks. And actually the Utah DEQ and the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining is working feverishly to finish their own set of state regulations because in certain states, the EPA supersedes the state, and the state supersedes the state supersedes the EPA. And when it comes to CO2, I don't know how it's going to fall out in Utah, but the state is assuming that they'll have some role in it, so they're working on it very feverishly. In Florida, it wouldn't surprise me because nationally, in Utah and other states, and in Florida, very few companies will insure CO2 storage because they don't have an idea about the risks. They don't have enough data for their actuaries to forecast what their profit will be based on given premiums. So the few companies that do offer the insurance, it's a pretty hefty premium. Trust me on that one, it's really huge.
Well, I understood in Florida that virtually no insurance companies will insure it because they can't predict the long-term effects. And it's sitting there.
Well, if it's,
You can't turn it on if it's not insured.
I know of national companies that are willing to, and international companies that are willing to do it regardless of where it's placed. So I would imagine that it's something locally that's precluding them from taking advantage of it, whether it's state laws or whether they're just unwilling to pay the premiums that the international firms are posing. That's my guess, because I know absolutely that policies are available right now, but they are prohibitively expensive unless you've got pretty deep pockets. And for a test, some of the testers are buying those premiums because they're short-term tests, and they put it into their budget. But for the long term, there's still a stare down between the states and the federal government. My favorite example is the state of Wyoming. Governor Friedenthal has said, the state of Wyoming, while it's under my watch, will not take on liability for CO2 because half of his state is owned by managed by the federal government, mostly BLM land. So he's like, why should the state take liability when the Fed owns my state? And it's a logical argument. But the federal government hasn't taken on liability. Meanwhile, North Dakota and other states are taking the liability, assuming liability for CO2, which eliminates the need for the insurance. But that hasn't cascaded to other states yet. It's a slow process. It'll happen in the West before it happens in the East. I think Florida will be one of the last states, unless the federal government takes liability. So until then, it's just insurance, and it's expensive. Very, very expensive.
You want 2 minutes to say something?
Yes, one quick impression you got that the nuclear technology is what takes 5 years to develop. We've got it right now. We spent $13 billion up to 1994 developing the system that we have since proved, and it's still working today. Still, they can still plug it in today. Start up with build a plant around it. But to get anybody at the legislatures interested, and look what we're doing in Utah. Our governor now is receptive to building down the Green River a nuclear power plant using 68-year-old technology, still water cooling type reactors, old-fashioned, not for the